Hello everyone, welcome to the Phoenix Phenomenon. I'm your host, ghostwriter Roxanne McCarty-O'Kane. Thank you for joining us for another episode where we delve into the transformative process of becoming an author and talk to the change makers who know this journey all too well. Today I'm joined by a man who goes by many names. You may know him as Gaz Jackson or Gary Jackson. He's also referred to as Captain Canine or the Dog Whisperer. Either way, he is one of the industry's leading dog trainers. Over a 30-year career, he has worked with more than 20,000 dogs in obedience, protection, or detection, as well as working with handlers in the police, army, prisons, air force, and state and federal agencies internationally. Renowned speaker, television presenter, radio show host, and has a number of firsts to his name. The list is way too long to mention here, so I'll do a bit of a highlight reel for you. His firsts include training Australia's first cadaver dogs and private drug detection dogs, being a consultant in many police and private cases, including the infamous backpacker murder investigation in New South Wales. He's also trained Australia's first dogs that can detect megafauna fossils, quolls, koalas, and other rare species, and even cancer in humans. He is also a 3-time author with 1 book already available for purchase and 2 set to be released in 2021. So we're here to talk today mostly about his book that was released in 2015, How to Find and Select Your Ultimate Dog. Now, from a gentleman who's got so many years of experience and seen so many varieties and species of dogs, I'm sure you've covered the full gamut there. So thank you so much for joining us today, Gary.
It's wonderful to be here. Such a pleasure.
Excellent. That's great. So I'd love for you to share a little bit with our viewers about how it was that you first delved into the world of dog training. I believe it started from quite a young age.
Yeah, my father was a dog trainer before me, and I was assisting him around the kennels as a child, and then I started training bits and pieces when I was around 12 and 13 years of age, and this was doing bite work and putting arm pads on, and the original arm pads we had were made by the prisoners of Bogger Road, and this was some of the dogs that he used in his security business, and then later on as a teenager I got more involved in the dog training, although I had other jobs and things like that, but I kept with the dogs all the way through, and I became full-time when I was about 18, 19 years of age, and it was and I've been full-time since then. So, and I've trained, I think about it's well over 20,000 dogs, so quite a lot of dogs.
Absolutely, and I imagine it would have taken a fair amount of bravery to be donning the bite pads and getting in amongst the action like that.
It is, but because I've been doing it since for so long, and also because you become so good at identifying dog behaviour, you can identify every single body language they do to get them to aggress, and so you basically it's it's safe when you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get nailed, and that's where you wear a body bite suit, you've got protective equipment and all that type of thing, and then you use it to train the law enforcement dogs or security patrol dogs, and you teach them about the back and the legs and all different parts of your body and that. And I've sort of slowed down a little bit with that now. I've half retired from doing decoy work, so I mainly teach dog bite prevention now.
Worked in quite a wide array of industries in your career and been able to work not only with the dogs but with the handlers as well. So what's it been like for you to navigate those two very different ways of communicating, with the dogs on one hand and humans on the other?
Oh, look, I love it. I love dealing with handlers and training them, and I love training the dogs and that. And the thing is that they've got such a love for the dogs that might be a detection dog, but it's also really cool for me because I get to meet some of the greatest experts in their area. So, for example, I trained the first cadaver dogs. So then I had to find out all about serial killers and murderers, and then I had to grave studies and all these different things there, as well as train the detection dogs how to find dead bodies, but also ignore for example, animal remains and so on, and then train the handler how to do this. And it's the same when you look at other areas like the environmental detection dogs. I get to meet some awesome ecologists and people that are so passionate with koalas and quolls and endangered species and getting rid of pests and that. So I'm immersed in all this incredible knowledge from these experts, and here I am training dogs to be able to detect endangered species, and then spending all your time in the bush looking for them. So it's an absolute wonderful thing. You're training people, you're with your dog, you're out in the bush, and you're protecting koalas and things like that. It's just absolutely magnificent. So I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm interested to find out how that all evolved. Was it just opportunities that came up as your reputation began to grow, or how did you kind of see yourself into so many different fields?
I started doing the protection and obedience training, and I really wanted to get into the detection work. So I started doing a lot on search and rescue. So I trained up a search and rescue bloodhound, and then I was a volunteer for all the for anyone that went missing in the bush and stuff like this. And then I started training up, using my position to train up dogs for free and give them to handlers that are within the state emergency service and so on. So next thing, I had a few dogs right around Australia there that were there on call to look for missing people. And from there it went on to that, hey, I want to do cadaver dogs. They do that in America, and there's none in Australia. So back in the early 90s, probably about 91, I think it was, I trained up Australia's first cadaver dog, which originally was my bloodhound, and then I got a specialist dog called Asia, and straight after that we end up breaking it on, what was it called? That criminal show, Australia's Most Wanted, I think it was called. And so we got a feature story on there, and then all of a sudden we had homicide from everywhere wanting to use the dogs to search for all these cold cases. So then I had the opportunity to go and do searches right around Australia for police and for parents that were missing loved ones and so on. And that became very, very fulfilling, doing the search, getting closure for the families if possible. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know there's only one of you, so that must have been very hard to, pick and choose which cases you were able to help and all that sort of thing. How did you navigate all of that?
I took whatever was available. So basically, we'll get calls, and I did so much over my career as a volunteer. So although I'm training and earning money professionally, the detection stuff, which I consider community service, and this was search and rescue dogs, cadaver dogs, and things like this, and environmental dogs, they're all community service. So a lot of these dogs I trained up free, and I also donated the dogs and also donated my time to get them in. There was no industry to start off with, and then basically with all the training, getting them out there, I actually created industry. And now, for example, the environmental dogs, the first ones was really the red-eared slider turtle detection dogs for biosecurity, then the cane toad detection dogs, and then the koala detection dogs, and then all of a sudden there's now environmental dogs everywhere. So it's really created industry. So it's employed a lot of people, it's saved a lot of wildlife, and there's some very good programs going around Australia, but I was one of the ones that started the whole lot.
Absolutely. And did you know at the time you were being somewhat of a pioneer, or did you just went with it, and on reflection you've seen the enormity of what you've achieved?
No, I knew I was a pioneer in it, because that was one thing I wanted to focus on, is that I'm a dog trainer. I want to do things that no one else has done. And that's why I started going for all these different areas which no one has ever done before. So it was, and when we look at, there's a lot of world firsts there. Yes, world's first cane toad dog, slider turtle detection dog, quoll dog, koala dog. We had pygmy blue tongue lizard detection dogs. There's so many of them that we did, plus Australian first, which is the cadaver dogs. And towards the end of my career, I did the archaeology dog, which got the world's record on the oldest human remains found in history, which was a 600-year-old skeleton, 2 meters deep. And then at the same time of doing that one, I was one which I've been wanting to do for so long, was breast cancer detection dog. And I've done so much study over many, many years on this. I ended up dealing with doctors, then flying to London to be with the medical alert dogs over there before I embarked on training the breast cancer detection dog. So there's a lot of great things that have come out of it, and a lot of the stuff that I've done, people have copied, and they've just gone and continued it themselves, which is wonderful. And now there's so many detection dogs out there and detection dog trainers, and I was the one that started a lot of it.
That's so amazing. So incredible. So I'd love to find out, that being in contact with so many dogs, you must, take on a lot of their achievements as your sisters as well. Do you have a lot of proud dad moments?
It was difficult at the kennels. We operated a full boarding facility from '89 through to 2013, and at Christmas we'll be looking after like 130, 140 dogs, and each week was a production line, and that's when the stress got really, really big, because where I had that great joy in dogs, I started to lose it there because it became such a big production line. So my way to escape was going out with the detection dogs, and to give you an idea on the weekly workload, I'll be training anywhere from 5 to 15 obedience dogs, 2 sessions a day, 7 days a week, and plus doing anywhere from 10 to 20 of our own dogs that we own that were in training as doing bite work to be sold overseas to New Guinea, plus the detection dogs. Now, I did this 51 weeks of the year for 25 years. So it became very difficult. And the only break I had was when I had a paid jobs where I'd actually fly out somewhere to do searches, whether it be in Victoria to look for slider turtles, or New South Wales to look for dead bodies, or up to Cairns to look for quolls. So I get to travel to all these beautiful places around the country with the detection dogs, and that was a really great time for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And in amongst all of that, you were writing your first book as well.
Yeah, the first book, as I went through my whole career, as I said, I finished the career in 2013 at the kennels, and then behind the scenes, what happened there is that there was a massive family dispute which saw me lose everything, and as a result, I became homeless. And in debt, and this was none of my fault, and I had to give away the archaeology dog, I had to give away the cancer detection dog. There was also another dog that were in training, which was a meteorite dog for no meteorite strikes. So all these dogs had to be given away, and I lost absolutely everything in the facility. And when I started writing my first book, I wrote that when I was homeless, and this is the book here that came out in 2015. And How to Train Your Ultimate Dog. Had no idea how it was going to come out, how I was going to pay for it, or even how I was going to distribute it. But I did the whole lot while I was homeless, got back on my feet and that. And because my story was so incredible with my career and everything, I spoke to a mentor of mine, which we both know, Alan P, is a body language expert. And his opinion was, write a book people want to read, not a book that you want to write. And that stuck with me. And from there, I wrote a autobiography on my career and basically what happened behind the scenes, because a lot of people just don't realise that the hardship that a lot of people actually have, and the vultures that are out there to destroy you every step of the way. And this goes from elder abuse, greed, the entire lot. And I had to battle with all that. And it's actually become so big. I'm still battling it now with 2 court cases going now, all in regards to shocking elder abuse and the failure of the authorities that's supposed to be protecting them.
Absolutely. And like you said, like everyone would know you from your TV appearances, from your radio show, like they would see the glossy side of life, and it's just, it's amazing to see more and more people actually being brave enough and having the courage to actually show what is actually happening in everyday life.
Exactly, yeah. And one of the things that happened when I wrote my first book, I wrote that, as I say, homeless, and then I started to get back on my feet and start to get established. And then in 2015, I had that book released with a national tour around Australia, and also released in New Zealand. So it worked really good. It worked really good for me, and my career has become the biggest and best it's been since that time. And it's worked really good. But as they say, the only people that can brag about being poor are the ones that's not not poor anymore. So so one of the things that I wanted to do was to share my story, to help other people that were battling not only family but the black dog. They're battling all these greedy, selfish, narcissistic people, the failure of multiple, government departments. And by telling my story, it may be able to help a lot of the elderly start protecting themselves financially from all these vultures that are around there. And the thing is that if the elders believe the government's going to look after them, nah, they're on their own. There's something like what we went through on book 2, the failure of probably like about 10 to 15 government departments that were all aware of all this elder abuse. And this is on 4 individuals and probably about 8 to 10 people that were abused them. And nothing was done, even though they were all aware of it.
Yeah, it's very scary stuff, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. Well, I'd love for you to share with our viewers as well. Like, obviously, these are 2 very different books. So your Ultimate Dog and your autobiography, your 2 parts of your autobiography. It sounds like you approached them both very differently when you sat down to write.
Yeah, it's actually I did approach them differently, but it was one of those things that helped with depression. And as I say, creative expression beats depression, and that's the one from Ocean Reeve, which I'll quote from him. It's one of the things where I just kept writing, which kept my brain going, and the writing really helped me out a great deal. And when I was homeless and I wrote that first book, that kept me going for weeks and weeks and weeks until I finally finished it. Then I had to figure out how I'm going to get the money to be able to put the book out. And then from there with book 2, this was my legacy, my story I wanted to tell, and not only on the different dogs that I've trained, but also step-by-step guide on how I trained and what went wrong. And so it's all the professional side to start off with. But the great thing about it is that I've given the book to several people that are training dogs that are not dog trainers, and I've got them to train their dog just based on the book on its own, and they're able to do tracking, do detection work, and do everything. So it's actually a dog training book, which is going to show you how to train a detection dog, how to train an environmental dog, and how to train a search and rescue dog and cadaver dog, and so on. So it goes through a step-by-step program in every single chapter. And then from there it goes to, while all this was happening, what happened behind the scenes. And so it gives a story that would have broken many, many people, but I managed to keep this smile on my face and say, that's the best you can do. I've had worse, and then just keep going. And once the mental attitude was 100% or great, I was able to focus on things that I wanted to do, not focus on the things I didn't want. So the book was also a release for me to be able to express all my feelings and show people that never, ever, under any circumstance, do you ever give up. And you just go harder. When something knocks you, you get back up twice as fast and keep going.
Amazing. Well, I ask every guest on the show what their Phoenix phenomenon is, like what their process of transformation was. But I mean, I think you just wrapped all of that up in there. It sounds like it was a really, an amazing experience both times around for different reasons, and, cathartic for different areas of your life.
It was, and when I wrote the first book, it also gave me more credibility as far as like being a speaker and things like this. So I started focusing on being a public speaker, and then from there I was able to travel around a few countries doing some talking gigs and MC different gigs and so on, which is really great. And having the books behind you is such an important thing, and then go and talking on that subject, and that's what I'll be doing with book 2, The Dog Trainer, because I've got an abundance of subjects to be able to talk with from, and this is what everyone that reads it, so far, all the reviewers read it, and everyone says, I can't put the book down. This is just incredible. It's just, there's so much, because it's got crime, it's got narcissism, it's got everything in there, as well as dog training. So I think it ticks all the boxes, and I'm pretty excited for when it's going to be released, because I really think it's going to be a big seller.
Absolutely. Well, there's definitely nothing else like it on the market. I can tell you that. It's very unique, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's right. It's the only one of its kind written like this. And once this one comes out, they're going to be biting at the bits to find out what happened to them all. But the other interesting thing about it is that there are a lot of people that have been writing about in this book, and we've had and a lot of them been dropping dead. So since I started writing this book about people, they die. and we've had several people. I think the death count is up to about 8 now, just from this book alone, that are in this book, that are all deceased in the next book. So it's a really funny situation, and the book was supposed to be released, as I say, 2 times, and that's been delayed before coronavirus. So I'm starting to beginning to think this book might be jinxed.
No, well, no, you could look at it either way, right? It could be jinxed, or it could be a legacy already, because you're already documenting so much of people that are no longer with us. So yeah,
that's it. But the grand finale is just the last book. Wow, it's going to blow people away. So the people that were blown away by this one here, this one's 5 times more full on, and it's when people are going to read that, they're going to be. Honestly, it's going to blow them away when they read what's happened. And this is mainly focusing on the elder abuse and the failure of all the government departments, and how much everyone can get away with hiding behind family trusts and hiding behind lawyers and manipulating and abusing people and actually robbing them of their entire estate, and get away with it without a problem. And when you look at the process all the way through there, it is going to disgust people when they read it. And the great thing is that right from day dot, I've documented absolutely everything. So I'm actually writing these books on a journalistic type events and that. So everything in there is accurate. And after I've written it all, I've then interviewed people that were actually there at the time to get them to review it and to clarify it and to validate it. So we've done everything we can to get it as close or perfectly to the truth that we possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's super important when you're looking to, this could be a major catalyst for change. So you'd want that accuracy there for sure. Wow, I think this is going to really take your career and what you speak on stage about in a very different direction going forward, or definitely opening up a lot more doors, that's for sure.
Exactly. And because it's I'm so passionate as far as environmental stuff, as well as elder abuse, which is another big passion of mine, and the dog training. There are so many subjects, and this is why I'm getting books, well, not now since the coronavirus, but with the Lions and all the community groups, to be able to talk on it. And it's been wonderful that I've been actually able to talk about the elder abuse, what's happened, and also how to avoid it. And hopefully I've helped out some of these elder folks that they don't actually get robbed, and their legacy is robbed because of greedy family members and relatives and gold diggers and basically predators. And in book 2, there's some explosive allegations in there, which is gonna be pretty big.
I'm sure there's a lot of people watching right now that are just hanging out for it to be released. So you have to stay tuned to Gary's social channels and website, and I'm sure you'll be giving everyone a heads up for when they can jump on and purchase these new books.
Yeah, as I say, it should be in 2021, round about March to May. First book will be released, the second book maybe 3 months after that. But as I say, we're just waiting for the court case to finish, and then I can just complete the last 2 chapters, and that's ready to go. And that's straight in for printing and out at the stores.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And so I'd love for you to share a little bit about, the successes that you've had since the release of your Ultimate Dog in 2015. You've touched on how you've been able to speak on stages around the world. What have been some of the highlights, some unexpected invitations, or some of the most memorable events that have happened after releasing that book?
After releasing the book, I got to travel around Australia doing tours and speaking gigs. But a lot of the time it was because you're an author of the book that you can actually go there and talk about dogs, and everyone loves dogs and so on. And I was able to do a tour of New Zealand, and we ended up doing the National Animal Control Officers Conference. And then from there we did another 10 or 11 seminars at all the Animal Control Officer conferences around both islands there. So you actually became touring with your book and then doing book signings everywhere, which is great. So it really has worked out really good. But the other thing which I was able to help is that I've donated a few of those books away for people to raise money. And one of the places I'm very passionate about is Bali. I love Bali, and I've been there about 8 times so far. And I always assist with the Bali street dogs and so on every time I go over there. So I donated a lot of my books to the cause, and they're actually able to sell them to raise money for the Bali street dogs. So when I'm actually able to talk about different things and donate the money back. And even recently, what I did there, we did a mini release of the book, The Dog Trainer, to a community organisation called Belong, and I volunteer there, dropping off food parcels to the needy and the people in ISO and so on. And I was able to do a talk, a motivational talk, and it's been great being known as a motivational speaker now, which is wonderful. So that's a highlight. And what we did is that we sold a whole stack of books there on the day, which wasn't an official release, but we sold a whole stack of books, and then the money from the books there we donated back to Belong, which I used to help the homeless. So basically what the future is with these books here, because there's so much in elder abuse and different things there, I'll be using a lot of opportunities to do a lot of talking gigs and then donate my fees back to the organisation that's doing it. So instead of me lining my own pockets, I can actually help out communities all over Australia, which are working with the vulnerable, working with the elderly, working with the our military and so on. And that is, to me, is very, very important, that you can make a bit of a difference for everybody.
Absolutely. And I can just see the passion as you're speaking. This is definitely what's going to light you up. So that's so exciting.
Oh, yeah.
You've got the vehicle to take you there.
Yeah, that's right. We got had an ambulance done up, so a massive ambulance, and it's got a sign written on the side, and that was for the May release this year, but that was cancelled because of coronavirus. November's cancelled, so we'll be going around doing the trip around Australia with the ambulance, and then from there we'll be doing book signings at bookstores right around the country. And then from there, we're looking at doing a national tour in New Zealand, and then we're looking at doing the UK as well. So we're going to try and see how it goes there. So if it becomes popular over there, then what my interest is travelling as far and as many places I possibly can. And the book is going to be a great ticket to be able to do that.
Absolutely. That's so exciting. All these amazing plans that are ready to unfold. Just because you've taken the time to document your life story and really lift the lid, I guess, on some of these major issues that are impacting so many people. Behind closed doors, I might add, a lot of this stuff doesn't go reported. So it's really amazing that you're giving it a platform to really educate and hopefully make some change out of it.
Exactly, and also one of the people that are featuring in book number 2 is my Uncle Bob, and he's the one that lost his house. He was actually saved by his 2 dogs, and we got his story not only from the war. He was awarded the Legions of Honour, which is France's highest award for beating the D-Day invasion. He only just passed last year, and we've got his story, so we're keeping his legacy alive, and the bombshell, which is the unknown story after all this. So there's some really interesting stuff that's coming out on this, and this is one of the things that we just have to wait for. And once all the court cases and everything are all finalised, then the book's finalised and it goes straight in for print. Absolutely
amazing. And so a lot of people who do watch the show are aspiring authors. They may already be on their author journey. As someone who's written a 50,000 word count book, and then we're now to lots of 120,000, I think you said it was off air, you're no stranger to knuckling down and doing the hard yards. So what would be your greatest advice for people who are on their own authorship journey at the moment?
Oh, I've got it. First thing you do is you create the cover of your book. You visualize the cover, you get it printed and do it, make it a poster, just like this one here, or that one there, the cover of my book. Make it a poster, and then it's going to become a reality. And put on the board there. The next thing you do, get a whiteboard for all your ideas, and then capsulize everything. So every chapter, work out from the start. Is it going to be 100,000 words, 5,000 words per chapter, 10 chapters? Start slotting them and putting them into capsules for every chapter, so you got the skeleton of the book first. Once the skeleton's there, whether you use Google Drive or whether you use shoeboxes, everything you can think of in that little time frame or that little area, drop it in the shoebox until you can compile a story. And then from there, you can start adding all your notes, all your social, your emails, a whole lot. And then all of a sudden, you've got about 20 components in each shoebox, which is each chapter. And from that, you can actually get the skeleton or the format of your chapter. Then you can actually start working on the flow of the book. So you've got your climax, and then the advice at the end, and so on. And that's how I do it. And then and then you only concentrate on one capsule. You don't worry about anything else. And if you can get that, you'll get that book there sooner. You know, it'll come a lot quicker than if you go, oh, I've got to write a book one day and just start writing, you know, into the distance. It just won't work like that. But the whiteboard is very important. The other thing that I have is this is like my little journal there, and everything in my book is all written down there and formatted. So you need to write things down instead of on the keyboard. So have your journal and just write as many notes as you possibly can, because when you think about up here, you'll forget about it. Well, I do anyway. So when you think about it, write it. And the other thing is that you always take a notepad and pen with you or recorder with you wherever you go. And just as you get the ideas, just get them. And then in no time, that book will be a reality.
Lovely. That was very comprehensive. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
I am a huge fan of the notebook and all the voice memos, like just making use of whatever you can to capture those, you know, those moments of brilliance when they do arise. One of my favorite stories, which you may have heard, and I share at a lot of my workshops, is the story of Roald Dahl. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but he was caught in traffic when he was writing his story, and was without a notepad at the time. So what he did was he got out of the car, was stuck in traffic, there was no cars going anywhere, got out the car and wrote the word chocolate on the side of his car in the dust. And then when he got home, he set to work, and of course the result of that was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So like how very different could that story have been if he'd lost that moment of inspiration. So yeah, I'm a big fan.
It works really good. And the other thing which I can recommend, get a backpack with your iPad and everything on it, your mobile office, and go to a majestic area to be able to do this. When I was homeless, the first thing I did was when I started to get back on my feet, I took a tour to India to live in the over in India to do stuff with the street dogs over there in Sikkim, which is the Bridget Bardot Foundation. And that was wonderful. So I actually wrote some of the book at the Taj Mahal. I've written some on North Stradbroke Island. I wrote some in the at the Air Force Base and Lackland Air Force Base. So the book was written all over the world, and when you can actually set a whole day aside or something like that, and you've got your format that you want to do, and you just sit there, turn everything off there and just go for it. And it's actually so tranquil. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So find yourself a good location, turn off the world, and then just go into a world of your own.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you. And what an amazing thing, like all the memories that are going to be tied up in that book for you, even just in the creation process and bringing it to life.
There's so much that I've forgotten, and then I go and speak to a lot of people which were around at that time, and then we'll sit there over a couple of beers or a wine and go, oh, do you remember that time this? Remember that time that? That's right. So you need to be around people to start throwing ideas around, and that's another very important part. And there's a few stories in the book there that wouldn't have been in there if it wasn't for the input of other people. It was accurate, it was right, but it's just I forgot about it. And you get short-term memory loss when you get older.
Yeah, I think it happens to the best of us for sure.
And because I've trained so many dogs now, I forget half the dogs and that. But when you're speaking with handlers, which might have only dealt with, say, 10 dogs, they can tell you in detail everything about those 10 dogs. And I go, oh, that's right, but I can't even remember the dogs. So it's one of those things that happen. But since then, since I've produced the books and that, it's been quite good. I'm actually traveling all over the place. I think last year before COVID, I travelled, I think it took about 30 plane flights. So I was travelling all over the place, you know, Bali, New Guinea, and all different areas. And there's some incredible, exciting stories about some of the things that happened in New Guinea, which were just extraordinary that I witnessed. So, yeah, book 2, I can't wait for that one to come out. I might just bring them both out at the same time. It's going to be a beauty.
Yeah, the anticipation's going to be getting you as well as everyone who's waiting to read it. Yeah.
That's it.
Excellent. No, that's wonderful. So at the moment, the Ultimate Dog is available to buy. Can you let our viewers and listeners know a little bit about how to connect with you and get their hands on your book?
Okay, if you go to my website, which is gazjackson.com, that's G-A-Z, gazjackson.com, here's a little tip. You can buy the book on its own as an ebook. It's also as an audio book, and you can also get it as a soft copy. But if you hit the hottest download, we did a professional video production on how to train and raise your dog. It goes for about 3 hours, and it's about $15. But we've also thrown in the Ultimate Dog ebook at no charge with it as well. So $15, you'll get the entire lot. lot, and that is such good value, and that's actually doing really, really well at the moment. So we're actually selling quite a lot of copies of that.
Excellent. And I'm sure, you know, that given the topic being what it is, it's going to be evergreen for many, many years yet. So yeah, good work in putting in the foundations and getting it out into the world.
Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful journey, I can tell you, but I tell you what's been interesting and character building.
Yeah, that's it. Awesome. And plenty more yet to come, plenty more book adventures for you. So
oh yes, I can't wait to finish book number 2 so I can start on my next book straight away. So I'm hoping to get another 2 books out in 2021.
excellent. All right, that's great. Well, thank you so much. I know you're a very busy man, and thank you very much for giving us your time today and for sharing your knowledge.
My pleasure, and have a wonderful day, and thank you for everyone for tuning in.